I think it's pretty easy to get under Donald Trump's skin. Everything aggravates him. He's annoyed and angry and lashing out all the time. But to live rent-free in Donald Trump's head, to always exist in the things that make him tick, that is another step up. And a step up that Jasmine Crockett has taken, someone who is clearly constantly agitating Donald Trump. And he made that very clear in a recent attack on her that he did during a very strange podcast. But it is backfired in the worst way because it is only bringing attention to Donald Trump's deteriorating cognitive state that Jasmine Crockett called out in a brutal clip that we are going to check out. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way, and it really does mean a lot to me. Now, before we can get into Jasmine Crockett's takedown of Donald Trump, we got to see where this all started. Donald Trump talking about his cognitive state right here.
Very low IQ president. And by the way, I took my cognitive exam as part of my physical exam, and I got the highest mark, and one of the doctors said, "Sir, I've never seen anybody get that kind of, that was the highest mark." I hope you're happy with that, although they haven't been bugging me too much to take a cognitive. But I did do my physical, and it was released. I hope you're all happy with it. I notice there's no question, so probably you are. But the cognitive, they said to me, "Sir, would you like to take a cognitive test?" I said, "Did Biden take one?" "No." "Did anybody take one?" "No, not too many people took them." I said, what about Obama? Did he take one?" "No, he didn't take one either." I said, "Let me be the only one to take one." But I've actually taken them 3 times already. I like taking them because they're not too tough for me to take.
So anyone who, like Donald Trump, has to brag about passing, and I mean passing, although he'll say acing, it's really passing, one of the most basic cognitive exams you can take where you have to point out what an elephant is, that person is in some pretty deep stuff. It is not an exciting time when you're taking cognitive exams like Donald Trump is. And the way that he brags about it just shows how far gone he is. But he's always throwing this around, talking about who has a high IQ, who has a low IQ. It's an insult he loves to lean on. And he did when he was attacking Jasmine Crockett on just kind of a weird MAGA podcast. And the strangest thing about it was how Donald Trump sounded. Of course, what he said is important for this context, but just listen to how he sounds.
She lies, but she's a lowlife. And she's a very low IQ person and a lowlife. And I don't imagine the Democrats are going to have a person like that running their party. If they do, they'll never win an election again. It would be very hard. But I can't imagine she's going to last long.
And what do you think of Governor Gavin Newsom's?
To be smart, you do need a brain. You can't get around with little quips. And I've only heard of her for the last couple of days, and I watched her make a speech, and she can't speak. And she truly is a low-level person on the very important chart of intelligence.
Yeah. And
really, it's nice to have intelligent people running your operation.
Yeah, somebody you can talk to, who you can have a good conversation with.
She was a comedian. I couldn't believe she was a congressman or whatever she is. and no, I thought she was a comedian.
That's unbelievable.
And she was sort of a little bit funny, but crude. And now I find out she's actually a politician, who the Democrats are going to suffer with this one.
He sounds groggy. He sounds old. He sounds out of it. He sounds weird. And he keeps going back to IQ. Jasmine Crockett has a low IQ. Jasmine Crockett, she isn't that smart. Someone who's a very accomplished attorney. And Jasmine Crockett, someone who at her young age is in Congress, is successful, is a rising star, if not one of the biggest stars in the Democratic Party. That person isn't smart. Okay, we're just not even going to buy into that. But Donald Trump's attacks on Jasmine Crockett haven't stopped there. We've seen him threaten her legally with Pam Bondi and the rest of the crooks in his administration. But this threat, in particular, this attack, Jasmine Crockett just couldn't help herself from responding to. And I'm so glad she did. She brought a little attention to something Donald Trump doesn't like us to talk about. That's what's going on up here, or what's really not going on up there. Let's take a look. Dallas Rep. Jasmine Crockett says she absolutely would take IQ test against Donald Trump. Dallas Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett said she would be willing to take an IQ test against Donald Trump. Crockett made the comments while making an appearance on Jimmy Kimmel Live on Tuesday night. During the appearance, Crockett talked about the president, Elon Musk, and what Democrats need to do to win over voters. The late-night host asked the lawmaker if she'd be willing to take a public IQ test head-to-head against the president. Absolutely, Crockett responded. Jimmy Kimmel also played a clip of Trump calling Crockett a new star in the Democratic Party at the National Republican Congressional Committee dinner earlier this month.
He also called you low IQ. I'm sure you're aware of that. Would you be willing to take an IQ test publicly, head-to-head against the President of the United States?
Absolutely.
I absolutely love it from Jasmine Crockett. Take every opportunity you possibly can to point out the deteriorating health, if we can even call it that, happening in Donald Trump's head. It's really just all falling apart. And it's not the only time that Jasmine Crockett has used her platform to talk about the health of this administration, and specifically HHS. Jasmine Crockett went on a brutal takedown of RFK Jr., as I think we need to be focusing more. I know there are so many topics to constantly be covering in this administration. There's a new scandal popping up every single day, but RFK Jr. is directly putting the health of America's children at risk, and Jasmine Crockett led a brutal takedown of that right here.
Are we tired of winning yet? We are hugely winning. We have the best of the best, right? Wrong. That was sarcasm if you didn't catch it. The fact is, we should never have partisan politics playing a role when we're talking about something such as science. But unfortunately, in today's times, Democrats believe in scientists and experts and data, and Republicans instead believe in conspiracy theorists. And right now, that is who we have leading one of the most important agencies in this country, is a conspiracy theorist, not someone who has an actual resume to get the job done. So why would anyone trust the Republicans on anything, let alone matters of public health and safety? It has taken Texas' largest measles outbreak in 30 years, with more than 500 confirmed cases and the death of 2 children, for the Secretary of the Department of Health and Human Services to say what we already knew. The most effective way to prevent the spread of measles is the MMR vaccine. This is the same guy who chaired the anti-vax nonprofit Children's Health Defense. Just last month, during an interview with Fox News, he suggested that somehow being infected with measles could provide protection against cancer and heart disease. The Republicans are implementing the most dangerous public health agenda in modern American history, and people are literally dying as a result. This administration doesn't believe in science. They're firing thousands of scientists and public health officials who keep our food and medicine safe, slashing funding for scientific agencies that help cities and states respond to public health emergencies, limiting public access to research and data that contradicts their misinformation. They're using financial threats to manipulate which studies the government will sponsor and blocking researchers from diversifying clinical trials. This reckless and chaotic approach will make it more difficult for the FDA to achieve its mission of protecting the public health of Americans. But there are 2 issues that I want to address before my time expires. Staffing at FDA has long been a challenge. The Government Accountability Office has identified several challenges at FDA as high-risk issues. One of the bigger issues the GAO has identified is FDA's extensive workload. Last Congress, the Senate held a hearing on the sale of unauthorized and illegal vaping products and e-cigarettes. During the hearing, Dr. Brian King, director of FDA's Center for Tobacco Products, testified that the volume of pre-market tobacco product applications is overwhelming. So FDA is instead prioritizing its enforcement responsibilities when it comes to e-cigarettes products. But just last week, Trump not only fired the director of FDA's Tobacco Center, he closed 2 entire offices responsible for drafting new tobacco regulations and setting policies. Dr. Kessler, in its 2025 high-risk report, GAO stated that, quote, stable senior FDA and center leadership remains of vital importance to the agency. How will this vacuum of leadership impact the public health and safety of Americans?
It will put Americans at risk. But you, Congresswoman, you raised a very, very important point. I'm the only pediatrician on this panel today. right? And your constituents, please, the most important thing is what you said. If you want to prevent measles, please have your children vaccinated against that very dangerous disease.
Thank you so much for that, Doc. And I only got 56 seconds, and I don't know if I'm going to go through my last question because you just, I'm looking at Greg to see if he's going to make me do it. Listen, I'm going to go off instead. Sorry. I appreciate the fact that you are an expert in this. And here's the reality. The Republicans, and definitely MAGA, loves to troll me in so many ways. And the reality is that I trust and believe experts. I don't believe that I know everything. I believe that I was elected by my constituents to make sure that I could keep them safe in all ways, making sure that they are not going to be victimized if they have, say, family members that are serving abroad because of Signalgate, because of that incompetence, making sure that they have access to vaccines if they need it, making sure that they can actually provide for their family because we have real economists that are
the gentlelady's time is expired.
Whether or not we are
Gentlelady's
engaging in
time.
a tariff war.
Gentlelady's.
I think incompetence and corruption are the two beats that we really need to stay on during this administration. As I previously said, sometimes it is too difficult to cover every possible story, and I know there's some Democrats really locked in on messaging who want to say everything but the economy is a distraction. And I do agree that the economy is an important and probably our best issue, considering how quickly Donald Trump has destroyed our economy. But if we don't talk about everything, it just kind of comes off as inauthentic. If we ignore the things that we should care about because they do matter, then what's the point of being a leader? What's the point of being elected to Congress if you're only going to follow the one talking point? Now, in the last day and the last week of an election cycle, sure, we want to be hammering home our best message. But every single day, we need to be talking about the attack on our Constitution from Donald Trump's administration, the abuse of the judiciary, the weaponization at the DOJ, the attacks on the human rights of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the children who will lose their lives because of RFK Jr.'s not just incompetence at HHS, but corruption. He is doing this all to serve himself and the special interest around him in this anti-vax community. It's not just about RFK Jr. being a wild conspiracy theorist. He profits off of this. And we ultimately always need to be connecting as much as we can what is happening in the Trump administration to their corruption. That these are people who are looking to serve themselves. They said they were going to lower your prices. All they've done is raise their net worths. That's pretty much it. That's what it boils down to, and we got to call that out, much like Jasmine Crockett always is on this show every single day. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video, and if you stuck around to the end, you can drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.